and welcome to this week's YouTube video. This painting doesn't look digital, but it was painted entirely in Procreate using Procreate brushes. I'll walk you through my fine art process as I paint this dog portrait from start to finish. In this video, you will learn how to easily keep your drawing correct, what brushes to use, and the importance of painting theory in this type of artwork. Let's get started. This is my reference photo. I removed the background because it's really not important. This type of artwork requires the artist to interpret the image and integrate the subject in some way into its background. I'm going to do this with my values, edges and brushwork. The brushes I used for this painting were the wet acrylic, the stucco, the turpentine, the Derwent, and I also experimented with the oil brushes. I have not used this brush selection before. You'll see when I show you the time lapse, I am just trying an oil brush out, seeing if I like it, and then moving on to the next brush down the list to see how it works. This piece was very experimental. Because I was using unfamiliar brushes, I used more layers than normal. I did this artwork on 7 layers. You can see I did my background, then the bulk of my dog, and then the additional details where I wanted to develop it. I started a new layer every time I got to a point I liked what I'd done. This is the easiest way to preserve a looser painting without the worry of messing it up. To keep my drawing correct, I drew around the main elements of my reference photo and then placed this at the top of my layers panel. I then used this as my drawing guide. Let's now have a look at the time-lapse video. Blocking. This is really important with this style of art. Start off broad and then refine. I always start with a block-in where I am laying my average values, lights and darks, my average temperatures, and I use a brush like the wet acrylic on about 80% opacity. I am concentrating on interesting brushwork, especially for the background of this one, because I have so much negative space here. I am also experimenting with different oil brushes in the background, using various ones from this selection. I am looking for the same effect I get when I use oil paints. Very often this is created in Procreate by layering different opacities, brushes, values and temperatures over the top of one another. I build up my dog with the wet acrylic, adding very little detail but concentrating on average values and average temperatures. I then start a new layer and put in some heavily rendered eyes and a nose that carries maximum detail. Notice how the painting works at this point, even with limited detail. I can then start to choose where I want to develop it. Get your values correct. Brushwork will not make or break a painting like this, but correct values will. Look what happens if I turn this painting into black and white. You can see the back area looks a little flat. This is because the values here are not strictly correct, and so my form is not as strong in this back area as this front area. If I know this, why have I left it? I want you to look here. I have put my 2 areas of maximum contrast next to each other. This immediately forces your eye here. I have suggested this back end here, but kept my values very similar. I don't want my viewer's eye to be competing for attention and looking too much here. Manipulating your values is a good trick for focusing your viewer's attention to where you want them to look. Put your 2 areas of highest contrast together for maximum effect. Temperature. Because my values are very similar on my back and background above, I need to use another method to separate these 2 areas. You can do this via 2 ways, either via temperature or by obvious colour blocks. I have done both. In my background, I have used red-brown in my colour picker. I have chosen a more muted dark red-brown. For my dog, I have used a warmer orange-brown and then also a warmer yellow-green for my brindle fur. This area here is warmer overall than this area here. Cooler colours recede, warm colours come forward. This back area comes forward. I have also grouped my colours, red here and orange, yellow and green here, 2 distinct colour blocks. This gives me enough separation without this area competing with this area. Edges. Notice how softly I have painted that pattern on the fur. I have kept my edges deliberately soft with brushes like the wet acrylic and some of these oil brushes. Hard edges will fight for my eye's attention, so I put them in the eyes, the nose and a bit in the collar. I use the wet acrylic for both, but just press a bit harder where I want a more defined edge. How to use your colour picker. If you import your reference photo in Procreate using Canvas Reference Import, you can use your colour picker to tell you the colours in the reference photo. However, this is very limiting and will not give you the range of artistic interpretation that you will get if you do it by eye. Understanding how colour opposites work and laying them side by side, pushing your temperatures and also your colour saturation in certain areas will give a much stronger painting. For example, here I have replaced my cool oranges with a transparent blue. Blue and orange are opposite colours. When laid together, they look amazing. This gives me a much stronger block here. Cool muted blue placed next to a neutral orange. Than if I had only used the reference photo colours via my colour picker. Brushwork. How do you lay your brushwork to give you this effect? Do your brushes even matter? The main point to take away is work with transparent strokes. We are trying to mimic oil painting, and oil paints are not all opaque. They vary from transparent to opaque. White being a very opaque colour, so you can use quite a blocky brush like I have done here. Neutral browns generally tend to be quite transparent, so I set my opacity lower. I tend to sit between about 70 to 80%, but also use the pressure sensitivity of my pencil too. I will layer my strokes over the top of each other using different brushes. All the brushes I use create different marks, so I am trying to build in texture. If I show you a close-up of the body, you'll see how scribbly and random my brushwork is. Keep zooming in and out of your painting. Seeing the painting small will help you see if your strokes are working. Blending your strokes is not necessary if you get your values correct. If it looks unintentionally wrong, check your values. The key is experimentation. The brushes you use don't matter. You can use any brushes you like to create a broken colour effect. Broken colour means where you can see the strokes of different colour. If your values are correct, your brushwork will resolve itself at a distance. That is when you zoom out of your painting. Remember, this is the first time I have ever used these oil brushes, and if you look at my other digital paintings, you'll see my style remains pretty consistent. The brushes I use are unimportant. The key here is that I am implementing the same rules relating to value, temperature and edges in all my paintings. However, picking a selection of brushes you like and then practicing with them over and over again is helpful because you'll learn how to use them. Brushes are just tools. What makes this painting work is understanding and applying painting theory, getting your values right first, using temperature to separate forms and controlling your edges so the viewer's eye goes exactly where you want it to go. If those elements are working, your brushwork will resolve itself, even if it looks messy up close. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try unfamiliar brushes, work loosely and allow yourself to make mistakes. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com where you will find examples of my work and details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching and I'll see you for the next one.